Hi, everybody, and welcome to A View from the SIP. How's everybody doing today?
Doing great.
Good.
Doing great.
I'm gonna steal your words. Better than blessed.
And that's on Mary Had a Little Lamp. We have very special guests with us today. We have Brad and Queen Franklin. How y'all doing?
Doing good. How about you?
Better than blessed, as she says. We're so happy to have you all here as guest hosts. So fit right in, jump in where you want to. You know, you're family now.
Gotta fix your mic.
Gotcha. All righty. So we're gonna jump right in with the Black History facts. Who wants to start first with their Black History facts? Any volunteers?
I'll go first.
Woohoo! Y'all ready?
Go ahead, Dr. Allen.
Okay. Mom Bet,
What is going on?
black woman in Massachusetts to sue for freedom and win. In 1781, she visited a lawyer and said, I heard that paper read yesterday that says all men are created equal and that every man has a right to freedom. I'm not a dumb critter. Won't the law give me my freedom? She sued, won, and had her name changed to Elizabeth Freeman. That's my little known Black history fact.
Cool. I love it. Next, who wants to be next?
What you have that? On one for both of us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm gonna read the Black History fact for both of us. I was just informed. We're gonna do it for all of us on the screen. Maybe a little known fact, and I've known this for a while, but I have been enjoying his liquor. Jack Daniels was actually inspired by a black man named Nearest Green in Tennessee. And he now has a line of liquor that is black owned that is called Uncle Nearest, that should be in a liquor store near you. But if you read up on the story of Jack Daniels, you read the biography of Jack Daniels, he mentions Nearest Green. And Nearest Green is the person who actually showed him how to make liquor and distill liquor and actually gave him the recipe for Jack Daniels. So most recently, the descendants of Nearest Green have assumed control of Uncle Nearest now. And we have an official liquor that is black owned. And Jack Daniels was created by Nearest Green. So there's a little known Black history fact.
I love it. Shout out to all the Jack Daniels drinkers.
I'll drink to that.
I love it. Next. Anybody else wants to go next?
I'll go.
All right.
I want to just bring up a Black history fact. I shared it on my page the other day about Mound Bayou. It's a city in Bolivar County, Mississippi. I think not that many people kind of know about it, but it was founded in 1887 by former slaves, and it was all black. And still today, the town remains 98% African American, and it still has the vision that they should fight for it to stay that way. So I think that would be just an awesome history review for teachers out there to review with their students and be proud that that is a part of the Mississippi history that honestly we don't hear about. So that is a little known Black history fact. Thank you.
I love it. All righty. Do we have any more Black history facts?
Okay, I'll go.
All right.
My Black history fact is going to be about none other than the Madam C.J. Walker. And I have chosen Madam C.J. Walker because, like myself, without her, I probably today wouldn't have the clients that I have as a beauty influencer. Madam C.J. Walker was America's first female millionaire, African-American female millionaire. And I also chose her because of this day and time. We have so many African-American females that are millionaires or that are on the brink of being millionaires. And I have to give kudos up and out to Jackson, Mississippi, and the African-American females that are here making history right now. And let's not forget that Madam C.J. Walker, she was also an entrepreneur and a philanthropist. My little known history fact.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it. I love it. I think I have one. Let me see. My Black history fact is Miss Jenkins, Christina Jenkins. She invented hair weaving.
Yes.
We wouldn't have all these wigs and everything else if it wasn't for Miss Christina Jenkins. So we want to give a shout out to the inventor of hair extensions. Black women everywhere. Thank you, Christina. We appreciate you, boo.
Boom, there it is. And we have the same last name. I might need to do a little history check, see what's going on. She's a Jenkins.
Are you related to Levita Alizé Jenkins as well?
You know what? I just may be related to her. I know one thing. She is one of the reasons for J Structure Beauty. That's for sure.
I love it.
Yes, Levita Alizé Jenkins.
So now we are ready for national news. Is up next. All right, the first story. Who got the first story that we starting off with?
We have the same last name.
Mute your phone. That's coming from somebody's phone. So who's starting off? Who's starting off with the stories?
Jay?
Yes, I'll start off.
Thank you.
I'm going to start off. My national news, you guys, and I hope you're ready. What about this Nobel Peace Prize? So we all know that for 2020, there were 318 candidates or people that were nominated from my research. And out of some of those people, I won't name everyone. If you all want to, see who all the nominees were, then I think you have to go read up on it yourself, your own. But one of my standouts was definitely none other than Miss Stacey Abrams. I have to. Was Miss Stacey Abrams. However, I don't understand how the former guy that was in the White House and his advisor, which was his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, I don't understand how they made
the list,
how they were nominated. But during my research, I noticed that pro-Trump lawyer by the name of Alan Dershowitz, I think that's how you pronounce his name, is how those two were nominated. Yes, they were nominated by one of pro-Trump lawyers. And I wanted to know how did they come up with nominations? I honestly never knew. So this time I really decided to read and see who gets to nominate, who decides, hey, these are going to be the nominees. And my research tells me that these nominations, they're submitted by members of national assemblies, governments, and international courts of law. They're also nominated by university chancellors, professors of social science, history, philosophy, law and theology, leaders, um, research institutes, and institutes of foreign affairs. The Norwegian Nobel Committee and former Norwegian Nobel advisors. So
basically,
those
we can
are
pick somebody if we want to.
y'all probably can. I can't. I'm not none of those. I don't think. I think we have 3 professors on here. We have 3 professors on here. So nominate. Yeah, you get to nominate. So after reading that, I'm like, oh wow. And also, when it comes to nominations of candidates, before the Norwegian Nobel Committee announces who nominated who, it takes 50 years to disclose that. But that person that nominated whomever has the right to self-publish themselves, let them know that they were the ones who nominated. I thought that was very interesting. I learned something during all of this. I learned something because I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. And I also read in one of CNN comments, they questioned how was Stacey Abrams even nominated, that she didn't deserve it. And, for me, I think that's a bunch of bull crap, that she does not deserve it, because clearly it's stated leaders of peace. Leaders of peace. And this young lady, I'm talking about, she took Georgia by storm. When she took Georgia by storm, she took the United States by storm. And apparently she also took the Norwegians by storm, because she was nominated by a Norwegian. So with that being said, that comment from CNN, they really can take it and shove it. That's how I feel about it. That's how I feel about it, because she definitely deserves it. Who do not deserve to be there is the little orange person that wears a diaper, and his son-in-law. That's who does not deserve to be there. And that's all I want to say. What y'all think?
I think Stacey shook up the world. She definitely shook up the United States. And it took her doing things that don't normally happen, which is, it happens, but we don't hear about it. There's no fanfare, where you get off in the crevices of these neighborhoods and do the walking and do the grunt work, the grassroots work, and elevated it times 1,000. She got people behind her from doing grassroots work. That doesn't happen. And because of her work, she made history and shook up the whole thing. Shook the whole thing up. Biden would probably not be where he is today if it was not for her, which means none of us would be either.
Right.
So that was
I agree.
I'm glad you brought that up, Jay.
I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Second that with the little bit comment that I have. Stacey Abrams, to me, and I think we talked about it with the children in class, is the next movement since Martin Luther King. I mean, she shook up the world. She made us all want to join in, even now. After she's done that blueprint, we're all asking, how did you do it? And can we do it where we are? So even based on that, I think CNN attack on her character is just understanding how powerful she is. Because if you're not powerful like that, they don't even speak of you. So I just think the recognition of her, them trying to attack her character, is just showing us how scared they are of her power, and how she may influence the next movement. And I think it's already happening. It's in the works. And that's where you see this crazy stuff going on, like all of these policies put in place to shoot down. And to me, it's just suppressing voter suppression again. Every state is just rushing these voter policies on what you can and cannot do. So I'm gonna encourage you all to take a look at those and to see what they're doing, what different states are doing. So to me, I commend her and her work. Grassroots is definitely having those feet on the ground. And like I said, because of her and the movement that she laid out, definitely is inspiring a lot of people, a lot of work in a lot of areas that needed to be done.
Yeah, they pay more attention to us than we do. So when they go
They
getting
do.
scared, that's when you know some real movement is happening.
I like
Yeah, I think, yeah. So they want you to get out and vote. They don't want us to get out and vote. They want you to get out and vote. But, because the message is spreading to everyone, and then we go out and vote, you get upset. So, what do they call it? Catch 21. They catch, y'all know the saying. Catch
Catch
22. Where
22.
I get 21 from? Maybe I want to go back to that
That's all right. I
age,
got you,
21.
sis.
but but catch 22, they preach, get out and vote, we need you to get out and vote. And we had someone on the ground getting people out to vote, and guess what, they were in shock, they were amazed, and they wanted to do everything they could to reverse it, turn it around, but you can't, because we got out and vote. And you know what, Trump, oh, okay. Can I say his name? Trump? Do I have to call him the Orange Man? But
him.
and Trump did all he can or he could to try to what's the word I'm looking for? Reverse what happened. And what's funny now is, Stacey Abrams did a lot. She did really help people to see the importance in voting. And now Trump today was his impeachment trial, correct? The first day of his impeachment trial.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And he's the only president to have gotten impeached twice. And he is the only president who has gotten impeached after he has left his term and to go to court after he left his term. So what does that tell our nation?
And other nations.
And don't leave out that they gutted the Voter Rights Act. That's why you have so many of these different states passing these different ID laws and all these other laws to disenfranchise Black people. So hopefully this Biden administration will fully restore the Voter Rights Act.
Right. So
also people need to know, because people were asking why are they impeaching him after he got out of office. But it's important to understand that if he is impeached, his the amount of money that they pay past presidents, that's on the line. Presidential protection, Secret Service protection is on the line. So if he's impeached, he will literally be wiped away from the history roll. So he will not have Secret Service protection. His family will not have Secret Service protection. And, all of the benefits that come to former presidents will be stripped away from him. So it is important, actually. He is out of office. He's not in office, but this impeachment is going to ensure that he's not treated as a proper past president, which I think is appropriate. So for people that were asking why, that is why it's important.
And it keeps him from running again.
Yeah.
Running again.
Yes.
He can't run any other public office.
Mm-hmm.
And I also left out, if y'all don't mind me throwing this in right quick, I left out too with that guy y'all just finished talking about, the person y'all finished talking about, was forged twice in 2018 for a Nobel Peace Prize. Did y'all know that too?
He was what?
He was what?
Forged.
What's that?
Name was forged.
Name was forged.
False. Yes, his.
Oh.
Yes, forged twice.
No, but what I do know is he wrote a letter for.
Isn't that awful?
He wrote a letter for, what was it, 5 teenagers to go to prison for a stolen jacket that they never stolen. I do know that. Those gentlemen served X amount of years in jail, at least 20, 30 years in jail. And apparently a jacket was stolen and someone was killed. And he wrote a letter stating that they need to be prosecuted. They needed to be in jail for the rest of their lives, this and that. And the whole story was false. Those gentlemen didn't even do it. I know that. And the thing about it is, this came out before he got in the White House.
All right. Now I didn't know that.
He was responsible for writing a letter similar to that for the Central Park, the Central Park 5. So I mean, he has a history,
a track record.
Yeah. Dr. J, can you see if you can unmute Stephanie B?
There you go.
Hey, Stephanie B.
Hey.
So
I know.
the next story that we're going to talk about is they was trying to. We need to mute somebody. I'm getting a lot of back from somebody. Okay, background noise. They okay. The next story we're going to talk about is I think a group of Republicans were trying to stop people from studying the 1619 subject.
Yeah, so first, I think everyone needs to know what the 1619 project is, or we talk about why they're trying to stop it. So basically, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't study like Jay Struck did. I didn't do my homework very well. But the 1619 project is an ongoing initiative from the New York Times. And it began in August of 2019, the 400th anniversary of the beginning of African slavery. And it aims to reframe the country's history by placing the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans at the very center of the nation's narrative. And then I also want to go back to some of the things that we discussed last week when I mentioned how the state right above us, it goes by the name of Arkansas. So I don't know if you all have heard of this beautiful state called Arkansas, but the legislators want restrictions on teaching social justice and diversity. So basically, they don't want you to teach anything as it relates to race, ethnicity, and things of that nature. And so the question is, what are your thoughts? What are your opinions on that?
So I'm teaching Black history or teaching proper Black history in school already. So it's not like it's much of a difference, to be perfectly honest with you, in my opinion.
As a teacher and educator, we have history, and it's up to us whether or not we attach that history to our history or not. I think as educators, we have not done enough to bring those lessons to the classroom because we can. Now, the way that they're setting this up, it would be definitely teaching a part of social justice in the classroom. And I guess if I would compare to something that's modern day, I would look at the Black Lives Matter movement and how they do that as an uprising. But because of that uprising, to me, a lot of people, and just say for instance, Stacey Abrams came and she implemented a plan just in time when people were just sick and tired of the injustice done to African American people. So that was something for them to move collectively on and make a difference and change. And I do believe those two entities work together to get her where she is and what she has done, the magnitude of it. But being able to teach this in the classroom and understand who we are, that would definitely make a bigger difference, I think, in the outcome of our African American youth. So the fight against it, I do understand. If you don't know where you come from and who you are, I mean, there's no way for you to understand where you're going. But again, as of now, as a teacher, I think that, in my opinion, educators just don't do enough to bring Black history into the classroom. Only one time a year to me, and we talk about the same people every year. So what do we do differently, or what are we doing differently to bring our youth to understand what we've been through and who we are and how we became?
So I'm going to read just a small portion of what you would see in the bill. So for those who are listening, can understand it a little more. According to the language in the bill, a public school shall not include in its program of instruction a course, class, event, or activity promoting the overthrow of the U.S. government or promoting division between or social justice for certain groups of people, including race, gender, political affiliation, and social class. If schools are found to be in violation and do not, abide by these rules and guidelines, within 60 days of the initial violation notice, the state could withhold up to 10% of the school's funding.
It's crazy.
Until they are in compliance.
Again, it is another way for them to try to shut us up and not learn who we are and where we come from. I mean, they have been doing the same game since the beginning. When they changed the color of the people in the Bible, think about that. You want to know Black history? Read your Bible. All those people were Black. So,
and they're talking about teaching about overthrowing the government. I think they need to make sure that the white students know about that, because last I saw, it was white folks trying to take over the government earlier this month. When was that? Was that this month?
Last month.
Yeah, January 6th.
Yeah, January 6th.
I think that educators do have a level of purpose as it relates to their positioning to educate our kids. But as a non-educator, I have to go back to Malcolm X's thought process, which I totally agree with. It's just basically, it would be foolish to expect your enemy to teach your children. So our job is, as a community, to keep our children informed about where we come from, who we are, and where we should be headed. Yes, it should happen in the schools, but if it does not, that doesn't relinquish our responsibility to our children. Back in my day, I went to the Black and Proud School. Adiambo is another school. So there were schools there for children to learn about who they are and heritage and things of that nature. That's where we need to be putting our focus and our energy, educating our children, ourselves properly. I just don't buy into the system educating our people. They don't do us right in any other way. Why would we expect them to do us right by educating our children?
I'm glad you said that, because I always ask people, why send your child to this college when you could send him to an HBCU? Because every year HBCU is closing their doors, but if it wasn't for the start of HBCUs, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Yes, ma'am.
But we fight so hard. And we beg, we plead to get our children in some of these schools when they can go to a HBCU. I'm the proud graduate of a HBCU, and I wouldn't trade my education for anything else. But, every time I hear about an HBCU closing their door, I get upset, because I know how hard they fought to get here, and I know how hard they're fighting to stay here, regardless if they're private or public. So K-12, we need to teach them, but we also need to help support our HBCUs once they graduate from the K-12 system.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we got to understand the narrative that has been created, because it was created. It was manufactured. Someone somewhere at some point began to create the narrative that an education or a degree from an HBCU was less than one from a predominantly white institution. And that narrative has been perpetuated over the course of decades. And we even have Black people now who will argue you down and tell you that a degree from Ole Miss is worth more than a degree from Jackson State University. And employers will tell you that very same thing. So that was started by, employers. It was started by people at these predominantly white institutions. It was started by people who wanted to create the narrative that you were getting an inferior education by going to HBCUs. And that's just simply not the case. And it's unfortunate that we have a lot of our own that perpetrate that same narrative at the same time.
Now, I do understand that sometimes you go to another institution because where you are, they might not offer the programs and you might not can afford to go out of state. But to go to another institution and major in education, you can go to any HBCU just about and major in education. Or to go to another HBCU and major in business. You can go almost anywhere and do that. So, yeah.
Yep.
I want to piggyback off of what you said, Dr. Allen, about education and majoring in it. And let's be fair when we say that. And I agree with everything you said, but let's look at the HBCU programs and how hard the state is on their accreditation and the things and the links that the students have to go through to get certified in a HBCU rather than a program that's predominantly white. You don't even have to pass all of your exams to graduate. But when I'm at Jackson State, and we frown on Jackson State, but I just say that we have an immaculate program in Jackson State because when our teachers graduate, they're certified. Unlike our white colleges in the state of Mississippi, you don't have to be certified, but they get out and they teach. And I also want to talk about the percentage of African-American teachers. African-Americans hold that 12% out of 100 nationwide, okay? So we are not the majority of teachers. So again, when you talk about that 1619, you just put the word out there. They don't want to teach it anyway. They're not going to teach it, even if it was written. And we know this because when we paired with Chicago teachers and they teach restorative justice programs in their school, they had issues with their white teachers even implementing it. And it's written in their law. So this is something that's been an ongoing knowing fact. So I do believe that we should educate our own, and there should be churches, private schools, and we should learn how to create our own. But in the meantime, let's point out this: private schools also receive federal funding, sometimes more than we do. Why aren't they negating how they teach their students?
I see we have a comment. We have a comment from someone. Calvin Stewart says, I catch hell teaching it. And I'm assuming he's speaking about the 1619. Teaching it is what he catches hell about. Well, my advice is continue to catch hell, meaning continue to teach it because it needs to be taught. And I feel like, as Carol said, African-American teachers are only, 12% out of 100%? So how do you expect it to be? How do you expect someone to teach something they don't know anyway? That's my personal opinion.
I was just gonna say,
I want y'all
Carol,
to know that Calvin works in a predominantly Black school, and it's not the other part that's convincing him to not teach it. So that's not safe. So we gotta rethink how we think. And first,
that's why I say keep teaching it. That's why I say keep teaching it.
Yeah. And
continue.
And you know, you guys, I'm just showing y'all this book because I want y'all to see it. Contemporary Debates in Social Justice, and it talks about teaching the social justice in the school systems. And so it's actually a good book for you all, for people to read, because it talks about those issues that some people are afraid to talk about and some people are afraid to write about and include in their curriculum. I was actually, I've read probably 95% of the book. I stopped after I read, and I'm going to toot my own horn. I stopped after I read my chapter. But it's people out there teaching. That's what I want to say. It's people out there teaching it and teaching about social justice, teaching about inequity, teaching about those different things that other teachers have a hard time teaching. But sometimes it's not that we have a hard time teaching. Sometimes it's that no one ever taught us how to teach social justice, or we were never in a socially just classroom where our teacher implemented those practices. So those who can and feel comfortable doing, keep doing and share that knowledge with others so we can continue to teach the things we need to teach to our children.
I would love to know from Brother Calvin the type of things that he's running into that's making a problem for him in the school that he's in. Now I don't expect he's gonna want to get into it here, but Carol, I would love to have that conversation.
Oh, I can tell you because I'm not
Okay,
scared to talk. So let me tell you, don't teach it. Period. Don't teach
Why?
it because they are afraid of who they are and what people create characters in these titles, and you got to understand. At some point, sometimes our leaders that we think that is good for us, they don't want to be reminded of the past. They want.
So this is not about funding.
No, no. Our state law, as it's written right now, does not prohibit us from teaching African American history. We choose not to. And let's not talk about that we're not socially inclined. Every last one of us on this panel, and even people who are not educators, understand what social justice is.
Right.
And I'm quite sure when you got pulled over and mishandled, you figured it out and you didn't do anything wrong. So we're capable of doing it. My thing is, and I think I put a map on my page the other day that shows exactly where we had the highest percentage of slaves in the state of Mississippi. And I can promise you, those are the areas that have a problem with teaching African American history or anything related to social justice. And in the meantime, I will say half of it is not connected to anyone white. Now, this new law, if you can see it, it came from legislators in Arkansas, Iowa, and Mississippi.
So our main priority is to free our minds. We are still in these areas mentally enslaved.
Free ourselves.
Yes, we gotta free our minds. Oh my goodness.
So to the educators here, that educating now in 2021, are they with history, American history, are they still studying and discussing Christopher Columbus? I just want to know.
Yes, that's the brainwash.
Man, get out of here!
They took Christopher Columbus out the new textbook, so it depends on if you got new textbooks or not.
No, Christopher Columbus is in all of them. So I will say that at a collegiate level, and I'm teaching college students how to become teachers.
Tava said, "Yep."
There are factors in there that teaches us that if you come from a single parent household, and if you live in a Black neighborhood, and if you come from crime and exposed to trauma at least 3 times before you're 5, that you're doomed to fail. So you have all of these now we're 12%, but you have 100% are being taught that Black little babies are doomed to fail. That's what they're being taught. Now, if I don't know any better, and if I'm not culturally relevant of the children or aware of the children or the community I teach in, I'm going to go in there with a preconceived notion that I should put these ladies or teach them just like they're little dummies, because I don't believe that they can be taught, because the textbook told me that they cannot.
Absolutely.
And so we have to just revisit. There's a lot of stuff that I think, and sometimes when we do RJ circles and peace circles, especially with between racial affinity groups, and that group with Black and brown and white people, we talk about things like this. And that's the workshop that we got coming up on the 12th. We talk about their preconceived notions about African American students. And we ask these hard questions because they're hard to ask. And they think about it. And hopefully what the conversation will do is lead every teacher, no matter what your color is and where you teach, to go back and question your teaching habits, or question your thoughts that you think about certain students, or question whether or not you give up too easily on certain students. So I think that's something that we should try to enact here in Mississippi more. And I think Dr. J, you started that like 3 or 4 years ago. Let's talk about race.
Yeah, and I actually talked to a couple of white people about having a conversation about race. And so I would like to bring a diverse group together where we use this platform and we talk about race. So I definitely will be contacting you all about that. The next story, speaking of, all the shenanigans that they do, we have another story about a Georgia congresswoman getting her committee stripped from her. Stephanie, you want to tell us more about that?
Are we talking about the young lady who had the, yes, who, that is hilarious. Marjorie Taylor Greene getting stripped of all her assignments. They've been talking about it, and it just shows you the absolute fear and dread. And I'm not a party person per se, but I must say the ideology of the majority of the Republican Party is that they're scared that they'll even allow this woman to stay in place with her conspiracy theories, her threats against Pelosi and everything. And they fought for her to stay. And when she tried to apologize, she didn't apologize. They had to fight to get her out. They had to fight to do the obvious. I mean, it wasn't even a debate. This woman threatened a member of Congress. She's saying there's pedophile groups at the bottom of Pizza Hut. I mean, really, and she wanted to be over the education of our children, which will perpetuate the system of oppression that they're so desperately trying to keep in place for our children. They are scared to death that we might rise up and do something. And I think that's where all this behavior is coming from in the first place. Ridiculous behavior, lies, perpetuated from generation to generation, takes me up to the Delta. And I did see that map that Carol had on Facebook about the places high in who had the most slaves, and those places they still don't have books. It's 2021. Now we're trying to get people in Congress on the education committee who perpetuates that kind of ideology. Getting her out was a great idea, but we're not done cleaning house up there yet, not at all, because it took them too long. And I want to know, why did they even hesitate?
Because they need that vote power. This lady said that the forest fires in California was started by space lasers. She actually said that.
Yeah, it's buffoonery, but people be really buying that. It's buffoonery.
Them Trump people believe anything.
Baby, it's 75 million people following Trump.
What?
To have her in place because they need her vote.
That's all they need from her.
They need more. They need more idiots, is what you're telling me.
They need people to shut up and vote. That's what they need.
They need those votes in Congress. So they're willing to look past her saying space lasers started forest fires in California.
I mean, well, if your president telling you to drink bleach, what you expect?
Space lasers.
Idiots.
Space lasers.
Yeah, but what does that really say about?
So they saw some of these and they see some aliens coming through.
Man, get this dude.
She said,
You have to laugh to keep from crying. That's all I'm saying.
It is so sad.
It is.
Wow.
You don't get away with it at all.
I can't wait till I can go back to the Mississippi State Fair. So I give me one of them laser things. The little stick.
It's perpetuating this idea that the United States is just a country full of freaking idiots.
I said that.
The world. I mean,
I agree with you, Queen. I agree with you. I agree with you. I said that on one of our episodes. It seems as if everything that America pretended to stand for, we never stood for that in America. America, it's been all lies from the beginning. Just
it was
just falsified. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just it's all been a lie. And that's why today in 2021, none of the other nations respect this one.
Right, like Dr. King said, we just want you to be who you say you are on paper.
Okay.
Be who you say you are on paper. They can't even do that. And as soon as we get them to do that and we do that, they move the finish line. Hence,
It's a problem.
You know, and all these other different policies and bills that they pass to keep us from, you know, achieving.
Absolutely.
So, you want to say something, Kara, before we move on to legislative update?
I was thinking about how, you know, some of we get so caught up, and I know that I have to sometimes remind myself, you know, we think that going to college, getting a house, and I'm not knocking any of that stuff, getting a job or a title, or, you know, we think that means we're free. And somehow that all this hatred that's been going on for years, that we now it's, you know, we're the ones that are at fault for not being able to matriculate up the ladder or create our own wealth. And I get so tired of African American people stating that over and over again when they have no clue. It's a systematic, it's racism. The system is designed by default. And if we don't start stepping up and stepping out and voting different people in that can create laws past those racial lines, we're still enslaved people. And I just think that this should not be a shock that they act like that. Why are we so shocked? They are like that. They have not changed. This is generations of hate that's been taught. And so it has not changed. And therefore, with our community, I think that we should always be preparing what's our next move. We should never stop. What are we going to do next? Because that's what they do. So I think that what she did was part of a design. What they did at the White House was a design. They're enacting that. And you know how we say we agitate people into movement? They're doing the same thing. They're agitating people into movement. So my question is, what are we going to do next? I don't even like to focus on them because I already know what they're deciding. I already know what they're doing.
Well, I want to piggyback off of that and say that most of us are less concerned about being free as we are about being rich. And they're two different things. But the system has set us up to believe that rich equals free, and it don't. You could be the brokest person in the world and be free. So until we get to the point that we have to reprogram our whole entire mental processing of what existence is, what freedom is, what matters, what happiness is, because we got all of that as a people screwed up. So thinking that because I got this and I can go buy this and I can wear this and I can own this and I got $1 million in the bank, great. But that does not mean that you are free. And most people are not even of the mindset to understand how important freedom is. It takes a long time and a whole lot of soul searching and self-work to get to the point to where you can understand how valuable freedom is.
So this is definitely an important conversation, and we really have to continue this conversation. We have to have a part 2 of this conversation some type of way. But up next, we're doing local news. So, Ms. Carol, you have a legislative update for us. What are they doing down there at the Capitol? Unmute yourself.
There's one bill that I wanted to talk about in particular that was up for House vote, and that was the $1,000 raise for teachers who've been teaching over 5 years, and then the $1,100 for new teachers from 0 to 5 years. And there was also a $1,000 raise that would take support staff from like 14,000 a year to 15,000. So I want to ask you all a question. What do you all think about that?
From how much? From 4,000.
14,000 support staff from 14,000 to around, I think, $15,000 a year.
So the
That's
raise
Bull
is
crap.
the raise is $1,000.
Bull crap.
It's not even taxes.
ridiculous.
This is
It
not
don't
even
even cover.
even wage. You can't even afford an apartment with those wages.
Well, the pairs,
So
some
my
of them
question
start off
is,
at minimum wage. Some of them start off at minimum wage.
and our minimum wage is $7 and what cent?
80 cents. I don't know.
I thought it was 725.
Yeah. So basically, they bring home maybe after taxes and everything else, probably like $800-900 a month.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
That's
so that would take new
ridiculous.
teachers from 36 to $37,000. But that's after the state takes their PERS amount and everything else. They will probably bring home less than $2,000 a month. Probably above 1,500, but not more than 18.
They can't even
So
pay their
ba-
student loans back after that. Off of that.
No.
So basically, they're saying some is better than nothing. That's pretty much what they down there saying.
What they
Oh, just
saying
some is better than nothing.
basically what they saying is you have no value. That's what they saying.
What I am sick of is that teachers have no voice, and the people that are on that educational committee, especially in Mississippi, have no voice. They don't speak up. They should have spoke up us for this year because we are essential workers, and I want them to know that. And for those who do want the vaccine this year, we were promised as teachers. Me personally, I'm not taking it, but teachers were promised that vaccine next, and now they don't even know where the next dose is coming from. They don't have it because apparently Trump told another lie, because that's what I'm just gonna say it's strong. They didn't have as much as he said. So now we are not even getting vaccinated, okay? But then for them to hold us as a standard, teachers do, and we change daily. We do above and beyond the work that we are supposed to do, especially during COVID. You all teaching virtually and face to face is difficult. Do you understand me? It's not easy. Everybody is adjusting, even teachers who are senior. That's me. I have a hard time. For them to slap $1,000 in our face and say that we should be okay with it, that's like $8 extra a month. Nobody sitting anywhere, including any parent, should be okay with that, because we got to realize we put teachers in a bind. We already worried about COVID. We already worried about not being able to pay our bills, but that's mental anguish, okay? And then on top of that, we're trying to locate students that sometimes we cannot locate, that we do worry about. There are no programs in place to keep our babies safe. We worry about that. But we're supposed to be okay with being last every year. That's not right. We have proven that we do more than the norm. And I think every parent and every legislator should have known that when everybody went virtual last year and some parents had to become teachers.
Well, I have clients who are educators, Carol, and I'm concerned not just as a mother of an elementary school student, but I see the effect that this whole hybrid, non-hybrid, come back after this point, evaluate the students, evaluate the parents, call them. It's killing their spirit. So then now the question becomes, are our kids even being properly educated? Because our teachers are suffering mentally, physically, and spiritually to be able to do their job. And it seems like things are changing from week to week. When they get a hold of one thing, they change it. When they get a hold of something else, they changing it. Imagine what that must feel like. Well, y'all ain't got to imagine, you educators, you know what that feels like. That's horrible. I see the struggle that the teachers are having. It's not fair. And you're telling me y'all ain't get paid nothing? You're risking your life every day and you're not getting paid anything.
And I'm telling you that these people that we elected in these offices had not spoken up, not one time, for any of us. And so to me, that's a disservice. So this work that we're doing, educating folks around why it's important to vote for people who are connected to their culture. And what I mean by that, who understands that the teacher's mental status, because we work one-on-one with those students, matter, that we should be taken care of, just like the nurses and the doctors, we should be taken care of, because we're birthing out students every year.
Yes.
And you got to make sure that they're okay.
I agree.
I definitely agree. And I think that's why crime is the way it is in the city. You know, lack of education is directly related to crime. And if we don't get our schools in order, crime is going to continue to go up. And, you know, that leads us to our next topic of, you know, people been talking about the crime in the city of Jackson and what we're going to do about it. You know, I have a different take on crime, because just say if I'm at home and me and you, Jay, we get into it and ain't nobody here but me and you, how can anybody else stop us? How can anybody else stop that? So, you know, people always talking about we need to do something about crime, do something about crime. What exactly can we do, especially with the situation that happened the other day with the ex-boyfriend? I saw your live the other day, Brad. That's why I asked you to come on and talk about that case. Kind of summarize what happened with that case.
I mean, as far as I can tell from, you know, the information that I got, and I think following up on Over Kane's page, is that an ex-boyfriend pulled up on the new boyfriend in traffic and took some shots at the new boyfriend and ended up killing one of the kids and sending one of the other kids to the hospital. I think they both went to the hospital, and I think the older kid died at the hospital. And I think the new boyfriend then jumped in a vehicle with somebody else and then went over to where the old boyfriend was and then shot the old boyfriend. That's the information that I have. I don't know how accurate that is. I do know that that was a domestic situation. So I don't know if that's, you know, accurate as far as all of the chain of events happen. But, you know, my video that I posted was basically to say that, you know, neither the police department nor the mayor nor the best laid plans that you could put forth, or nor having, you know, 1,000 police officers on the ground in Jackson, Mississippi, was going to stop that from happening. And I think because we are in the election season and because we're getting ready to vote on a mayor, I think everyone is going to be spending a lot of their time trying to nitpick and find reasons to blame particular people and point the fingers at people and try to blame. You know, there is an issue. You know, first of all, there is an issue with crime. There is a gang problem in the city. When you don't completely take care of the problem, the gang problem is something that's going to continue to reemerge every generation. You know, I lived in Jackson all my life. I was here back in the 80s when it started, in the 80s when the first gang killing took place over at the Jackson Mall. I remember it being a problem then, and they had to do what they needed to do to suppress it. And every generation, you're going to have a gang problem. There is a problem with leadership at JPD. There is a problem with them being understaffed. There is a problem with them being overwhelmed. All of that is true. But to say that, you know, having police officers on the ground was going to stop what happened the other day, or was going to stop most of the incidents that we have seen in the city, have been incidents between people who were familiar with each other, or domestic situations where you have husbands, wives, girlfriends, family members, or there were situations where somebody was doing business with somebody else and it went bad. These are instances where things are happening at the spur of the moment and there's nothing that you can do to stop those things. So our issues, there's levels to it. So our issues do not just reside with JPD and reside with the mayor is not Batman. Okay, and the city council is not the Avengers, and they're not the Justice League, and they don't go out and they don't fight crime. They can put a plan together. That's good. Put a plan together, put a plan in place, get enough police officers, put them on the ground. Those issues do have to be addressed. So I don't want anybody saying that we're trying to sugarcoat anything or gloss over anything. We do understand that we are in the midst of a global pandemic, and during times like this, crime is going to spike. We have a crime problem, but we also need to look at real solutions and stop pointing the finger. It's easy for people to point the finger at people and say it's the mayor's fault and it's JPD's fault, when in actuality, we're dealing with issues that are starting way, way back into household situations, parents and kids, educational situation with teachers and students. All of those things lead to where we are now. What I want to find out is I want to find out what makes the 14 and 15-year-old go out. The 14-year-old that got shot in the truck over on West Street. They had previously, earlier in the day, held someone up and carjacked someone earlier in the day. And then that person came back and shot at them later on for having carjacked them earlier in the day. So what we need to find out is why is there a 14-year-old who is going out and carjacking people? That means that there is someone that is older than that 14-year-old. There's an old fool out there somewhere that's influencing that 14-year-old to go out and do what it is he's doing. That is what we have to stop. There is a chain, of causation that happens for us to get to that point. These kids are not going and getting out of their house and deciding to go out in the street and just randomly do crimes. These things are happening for particular reasons. And I think as educators, y'all see this every day with kids that are coming from really bad household situations. We know that there are some kids who are coming to school, and school is the only place where they're getting a good meal. It's the only place where they're getting any type of attention at all whatsoever. So we got to start there. So we have to start at the foundation of this and work our way up to that. But, all these people that are pointing fingers, it's just ridiculous for us to keep doing that, because you're pointing fingers at the mayor because you have somebody else that you want to be mayor, and that's fine. You're pointing fingers at the police department because you don't like the chief and you don't like who's on the police department, and that's cool. But it's also a superficial surface type of solution. The solution is figuring out at the base of why these things are happening. And that's kind of what, the reason that I put the video out. It wasn't necessarily for what happened at that particular incident, but, it's the mindset that goes with that incident. Why did that gentleman feel like he needed to leave the house? And, why was that, and I used it on my video. I said, penis and vagina. I need to figure out why this young lady's vagina was so important to him that he felt like he had to go out and he had to kill this guy in traffic for it. What made it that special? What made it that fantastic? What put you in that mindset to want to go do that? There's not a police officer in the world that's going to be able to stop that if that happens. Not a detective, a superhero. Nobody's going to be able to stop that if that happens. We got to start getting to the hearts and minds of men and children and figuring out what makes them tick from there.
I think it's so important.
Definitely the hearts and minds of children.
Yeah.
Definitely the hearts and minds of children, because that is where it starts. That's just my opinion, my personal thing. It starts there. The hearts and minds of children.
What you was about to say, Stephanie?
I was going to say he hit the head on the nail. We got to get into prevention. I love what you said about, pointing fingers and blaming, and like you said, that, for profit, for some sort of gain. But we got to talk about the history of racism and how we're socialized to do self-defeating things, and start looking at these old school people doing old school self-defeating behavior and perpetuating that onto the children. And what Jay Structure talked about, the impressionable mind of a child and what environment that child is, compounded by poverty and racism, compounded by a pandemic, compounded by desperation and trying to feed a need, whatever that need is. And then that need becomes obsession because the resources are few, because somebody's keeping the resources, away from people in the communities. So they desperately go out and react and respond in ways that fill an immediate need because they haven't been taught and they're not settled in their home settled in their mind, and that they're seeing us real spike in mental illness, but in our communities we don't know to go get the help, and we don't trust the help that's available. And that's why we need more of our people to be psychiatrists, to be psychologists, to be therapists, to be social workers, to practice prevention in homes, in families, in communities. And that, yes, unfortunately, we're going to have to reinstill some family values and offer support to families so that these values can be instilled, so these kids won't be out there. And no, I'm not talking out the side of my neck. I used to work in the city of Flint, Michigan, and now they're suffering the same way because a water crisis, kids poison, racism is happening there because it's a perpetuated demon. And I just call it a demon because it's happening in cities all over, and goes back to inequality, that our people don't have the resources that we need. And now we're socialized to become criminalized in our society, because they'll take away enough stuff. They'll have, and then they say we're criminals because we don't have access to. Then we teach our kids those same behaviors, and those kids do it whether they got stuff or not, because that's the way they were raised. They were raised to act out and act up. And so as a result,
do you really think they was raised to act up? I don't think they were raised to actually act up. Something went bad or wrong in that child's life.
I think you're right about that too. But I have to say, I have seen, as a social worker, you are absolutely right. Sometimes trauma can lead you down a trajectory, but sometimes the trauma happened to the grandma, and then the grandma taught the mother the inappropriate behavior. And the mother had a baby, taught the baby the inappropriate behavior, and the baby didn't even start off on the right track. I saw that, and it can be generational, and then we see generational patterns of criminality in our system. And wrong is right, and right is wrong, and this is how I live. I don't have no conscience about it. I had a little boy tell me once, "You can't tell me about smoking weed when my grandma and my mama smoke weed. I can smoke weed. We smoke weed in our house. I've done it all my life." I mean, not that weed is the issue, but back in the day, when he was talking about,
But when you have that conversation with a child, you let them know that their brain is not fully developed until they're 26 years old. And them putting chemicals or whatever in their bodies before.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So it's conversation you can have with kids about, when they bring up certain topics.
Absolutely. And that's what we're seeing. We see the perpetuation from even a small child. And I think I talked previously about working in a home where children were born into criminal systems and were perpetuating major behaviors. And we had to, because their minds are so impressionable, and so, I've seen miracle overcoming and miracle healing, but I've also seen somebody raised in a system of inappropriate behavior and grow up, and that behavior becomes the norm.
Let's get some feedback from some other people. Anybody else want to weigh in?
So I noticed one thing Stephanie did say. I agree with both you, Stephanie, and you, Dr. J. I always think circumstances are different. That's just what I think and believe. However, Stephanie mentioned generation, grandmother, mother, child. Well, what I have noticed is there aren't any more grandmothers in the first place. There aren't any. The elders are gone. There's a generational gap, in my opinion. And there's the grandmothers and the village that I had. I personally believe that it's not there anymore. It needs to be recreated on some form at some level. And I say that, and that is why one of the reasons why I have taken a new journey that I've taken, that I'm on at the moment. I'm actually training right now to be CHW, a community health worker. I started my training on yesterday. So I took this journey because my motto is more than a stroke of a brush. It's a ministry. I kind of pondered with that, kind of long time with it. And I've gotten so many different aspects from that. And this was just set over into my lap. So after meditating, it dawned on me, this is my new journey. This is something I need to do. And so in doing that, I want to do that because I've noticed that village is gone. It's gone. And we need to find a way to bring it back. We need to find a way to capitalize on that village and make that village happen again. Because if not, these 15-year-olds are going to keep shooting people in their head. They're going to keep running into cars, robbing people, doing all sorts and types of things. So I think that is very, very important. Grandma now is glamour. Grandma trying to beat you to the club. You just said grandma smoking more weed than, not that it's an issue, but grandma's doing, I'm not going to say weed, doing more controlled substances than you are. You know, so grandma is gone, and it's something has to be done about it. It's something has to be done about it. And I do believe that the elders are important. They are important, and they are a part of life that is needed. And they just there's no direction.
Kara, you want to comment?
Yeah, I do want to point out too that, you know, I think one of the questions my student had, and I think this is very critical, what is Black excellence? We compare our children, like some kids, they curse. I mean, like that's their culture, that's their environment. So I think that's one thing to look at. Have we ever created a model for what that looks like? And then let's also look at some of the things that the state itself, and I know we always go back to education because I think social competency should be taught at a very early age. There are things out there, especially when ESSA came into play after No Child Left Behind, that they were clearly supposed to implement P16 councils in school districts where there was a community connection where they can and bring the parents in. But I think what has happened with that is just a big line, and they invite the parents who they want to invite. The parents who really need to be there and need the support, they don't ever actually get to the table. That's just my opinion. Another thing is it's not effective because to me, if it was, a lot of the things that we do have going on, that council is supposed to come together and recommend things that the social community may need. One of the things that we know it needs is RJ, we call restorative justice. That's supposed to be implemented in every school district public school district across the state of Mississippi. How effective is it? Do your child come home talking to you about it? Are they actually implementing it? Where's the money? So these are the things that as parents and as community members that we need to make loud noise, because we talk about social crime, because that's what this is. And no one person alone, police or mayor or me or you, that's social. So what has to be taught is a way to deal with social things that may take us out of our character. How do we cope with trauma? How do we cope with hurt? How do we cope with pain? That's something that we don't teach. They knew that every educational leader knew that we needed to put this in place 8 years ago. How good have we done as a school district, your school district, my school district, wherever we are, with putting things in place for children at an early age that we have identified as high-risk students? So that's another thing. And then too, as community-based organizations who are funded to do this type of work in the community, how well are they implementing their work in the community? Who have they reached? What are they doing? We never ask those questions. And these are, again, I'm gonna go hard because these are nonprofit organizations that are supposed to be doing the work. Where are they? Why don't we see them? And that's just my thing. We need to start there with asking those questions. First of all, who are they? And what are they supposed to be doing? And once we figure that out, what have they done? That's a good place to start. And then we can stop pointing the fingers because we can have a paper list of what organizations, what school districts are supposed to be doing, how effective they are. And then we can go from there because the foundation has already been laid. It's a model out there. You can type it in and go to Mississippi Department of Ed and look at the curriculum. Is it being taught? Is it being enforced, implemented? And if not, how can we get it started? I think we should start from there.
All right. Any other comments before we move on?
I just want to say that I don't think any of this matters until we start recognizing the need to heal. Sister Stephanie spoke about trauma. Trauma can kill our whole community because it does not stop until it's healed. It passes on from one generation to another generation to another generation. And which I think I interpreted her comment as what you got to do. If you don't teach them right, then you teaching them wrong. That's it. So it is up to us to start blocking these generational curses so that we're able to heal stuff and not pass it on to our children, because that's what's happening, you know. And then we can get to the elevation of our minds, freeing our spirits. And then we can get to putting key things in place to where we become the educators of our children and the people, the keepers of our neighborhoods, and we have value. See, that's what's missing. The value has been stripped from us. It's locked in that place that has us enslaved. And until we begin to recognize our value, we can't be free and we can't heal. And that's where all of these other things are starting to show up. And I think people trivialize how important it is to do that healing work. But it's really high on the priority list. It cannot be ignored. It's very, very high. And I think that there's a shift happening universally where we're starting to pay attention, but you can't do one without the other. You can't go down to number 5 and skip 1 through 4. Yep. This work has to be done. I just wanted to, kind of put that out there.
I want to ask you another question before you get there. If you, and I know you're good at what you do. I know you're good at bringing out the conversation because it starts with sharing your story. So what would you need? Think about what would you need to start implementing those conversations in the community. Tell me one thing you would start with. What would you need?
Depends on what you want to do.
I want you to initiate the start of storytelling, because that's in RJ practice. That's what we do, to talk about what it is that hurt us, because that's what you got to admit first, right? So you host these circles where you bring key people together and you talk about in the hopes of tapping into some form of healing. But in order to put that in place, what do we need? Do we need funding for it?
Yes, you need funding.
Okay, so that's when I'm gonna go back to what I was just saying. Funding has been given to so many nonprofits who are claiming to do the same work that you are probably on the ground doing for free. What I'm saying is we need to shift that to the people who are actually passionate and doing the work, so we can see the fruits of our labor. So when I went back to what are these organizations, I want y'all to pay close attention to that, because they're capitalizing off of our babies and they're not providing the services that they claim they're supposed to be providing. And that makes me angry. And I think when we start paying attention to that, we can start actually saying, okay, this is problematic. This has been going on for too long. What can we do to prevent these people from doing this to our babies? Because they're taken from us. They have already wrote out a grant because these kids have so much crime. They need X, Y, and Z. Somebody give them the money to do the work, but the work's not being done.
I hear that a whole lot, and you are correct. So I'm not discounting what you're saying, but what we do is a lot of times, as I hear this about nonprofits, a lot of people out there that talk about a lot of the nonprofits that are out there receiving monies and not doing the work. They've already figured out the system, and they've already figured out, what it is that they need to do to get their funding. I think if we spend a lot of time trying to point out the nonprofits that are not doing the work, I think that bogs us down. And a lot of minutia, what we need to do is identify the people who are doing the work and get the people in the room with them and teach them the process of being able to get those same monies and get that same attention that those other nonprofits are getting, because there is a process. There is a way to write these grants. There is a pool of monies that is out there and available. So we have to get those people in the room and teach them the same methodology and teach them the same skill sets to be able to go out and to get from that pool of money what they need to get to be able to do what it is they need to do. Because if we go the backwards way, and we're talking about the nonprofits that are not doing the work, And, you know, at that point, you know, what's going to happen if they're not doing the work? Are you trying to, you know, keep them from getting funded? Are you trying to take the funding that they probably already got in place away? It just bogs us down into too much. I'm about solutions and moving forward. So let's identify the people who are doing the work, and let's get the people who are really good at identifying grants and identifying where those pools of money are, and let's give them that same information and those same skilled people to be able to do that, because that's what a lot of the people who are on the ground, that's what they're lacking. They're lacking the knowledge, and they are lacking the inroads to be able to find the monies to do what it is they need to do. So let's give them the tools that they need to be successful, and let's move forward, because you're going to always have people who are misusing the funds, and you're going to always have people who are not doing the work. That's going to continue on forever. Because people have learned the game and they've learned the system. So we're not going to really be able to stop that. And we can't really worry about that really at the end of the day. Let's figure out how to get the people to help.
Yeah, we have to move on because of time. I do want to create a some type of forum so we can continue to have this discussion or continue this discussion. Like I said, we're almost out of time. And so I do want to move on to our last segment.
This work can't be done in the system. That's the mentality that's keeping us fucked up.
So, how many of y'all watched the Super Bowl this weekend? You know, I didn't watch. I'm still not into the thing. But when I
found out Tom Brady was in it, there wasn't no reason to watch it.
You know, I do want us to kind of talk about, did anybody see any of the commercials, Super Bowl commercials?
Where the money reside, where the money reside. Where the money reside.
I think that we have that commercial. Let's play it.
That's on Mary had a
all right, we going. What a money reside, what a money reside, what a money reside, or what a money reside. Okay, Super Bowl 55, you got Tom Brady and pay my home. I'm ready to see what's gonna happen, okay? And they gonna take y'all to the one, to the one, to the what a Super Bowl reside, okay? And what a Super Bowl reside. And that's why Mary had a little lamb with a Super Bowl ring. Mary had a little lamb with a Super Bowl ring, okay? I got Tom Brady and Pat Mahomes, and I'm ready to see what's gonna happen this Sunday in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah, this dude did one commercial, one video, and got him on the Super Bowl.
That's a big deal. That's
a big deal. While y'all sitting around here playing, why these type of videos we need to be making?
I don't know. I mean, you know,
you can't really sit down and try to make them. They just happen.
It just happened. You know, I struggle with that a long time. You know, I feel like I say a lot of times I should have been making millions, but you know, hey, guess it ain't my time. It's coming though. It's coming.
I get Brad to go on a wing eating mission and just videoing it. I mean, he's a wing connoisseur, but he won't do it. We can be rich.
This lady can get paid for $10,000 a month for acting like a dog. Did y'all see that? This lady's getting paid $10,000 a month for acting like a dog. Come on, this thing is like what I can do.
That is
Please play the video.
What?
I don't have it. I just thought about it. But I have some better videos to play. I know y'all saw, oh girl, Gorilla Glue Girl.
Oh my God.
So let's play it. I'm gonna get everybody to come in.
Watch. Look, y'all, look. You wipe it off and nothing happens. Like, this is the life that I'm living at this point. Like, this is the life that I guess I'm gonna have to live. Yeah. Look.
Jay, that's what you be doing to your people. You be putting that gorilla glue on their head.
Carol, don't leave Carol out. She does that too.
Carol, you do that? Jay and Carol, y'all doing that to y'all people?
This is what gorilla glue does. You see this? And now you see this. This is the result. This is what you get with gorilla glue. You see that? This is what you see that? This is what you get with gorilla glue.
Do you think that she thought she was using gorilla snot?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let me tell you something. What I've learned about African American women and hair products. They think that just because you have gorilla snot, you have got to be glue. Oh, well, I can use just a little of this and it won't hurt. It'll just do the same thing. No, ma'am. There are different types of chemicals that are placed for different reasons, honey. You can't do that. You can't do that. You have to, something have to click and tell you. Well, I know because I'm a hair care professional, so I do know, but I would think that something in your head would trigger and say to me, well, if this glue, if this will make ceramic and wood stay together, then what would it do to my scalp and my head? You know, I think logically. So I think, I'm a lame person. I consider myself lame. So the lamest I can make it. This just, if I could take wood and ceramic and stick it together with this, why would I put that in my head? On my body?
Maybe she didn't know.
She did know. She said she knew.
She knew. She knew well. What she thought was, she thought that it would not have that type of effect. She thought it would do the same as.
She did not.
Well, one thing about it.
She did not realize
whatever she
probably the strongest adhesive on the face of the planet. She didn't.
Whatever she
an adhesive for your hair.
She didn't think.
Whatever she knew or didn't know, she's dealing with it now.
She had the surgery. She did have the surgery.
They raised $10,000 for her the last I checked.
Wait,
they have raised up to $10,000.
They sent her. Gorilla Glue sent her a recipe to get the chemicals loosened up in her hair.
And she went and had a procedure, and a doctor volunteered to pay for her.
Yeah,
right.
So she had a lot of resources, but she still got to suffer the implications of that. Well, no way you can keep that hair. You just gonna have to grow it all over again. Just gonna have to do it.
So I heard that she's on her way to LA, that a doctor in LA in Beverly Hills had agreed to do a procedure, and it take 3 days. And so that's the last that I heard of her.
Yeah.
So we have another video. How many of you all can relate to this video?
What? Don't worry me. I don't know what kind of household you live in, but if I find another half-drunk water bottle laying around my house, it's gonna be me and you. Because I don't have time to be ripping and running back to the grocery store and getting new cases of water, okay? Pick one and finish one, because after all, I'm gonna make it a limit, 1 bottle a day. Okay? Wasting my water bottles. Just wasteful.
Can you send me that clip? Send me that clip. My plants get the best water in Byron, Mississippi. Because every half bottle I see around the house, I just pour it in the plant. It cannot go to waste. It got to go somewhere.
It's so amazing how I have so many props just around me. I don't know how that happens. Like, that is crazy. I have so many props. I'm serious. Like, I'm shocking myself.
For real though, Dr. J, that's a real thing in my household. My husband and my daughter on a daily basis. Braylon, did you finish that water? Where your water bottle at? Don't get in there another one. You done drink on a regular basis. It should be like I'm drinking it.
I stopped buying the large bottles. I get the small bottles now. So
That's smart.
she finishes those. You're not gonna outsmart me.
You're not gonna outsmart me.
So
she'll drink all of these only because it's a little bit of water, but I didn't realize that was a thing. I thought that was only a thing in here, but apparently every parent across the planet is dealing with the same thing. But you know, it's natural because you are dealing with kids who don't understand the value of $1 and they don't buy anything, so they don't care. So you have to make sure you let them understand that.
y'all, that look when he opened the door, y'all know that your parents give you that look. They don't say that, give you that look. He had that. So you guys,
Baby.
before I play the last clip, I do want us to talk about Bell Collective before we leave. How many of you all have seen Bell Collective? It comes on, let me mute him while he's making all that background noise. It comes on Friday nights at 9:00, and it is filmed right here in Jackson, Mississippi. So on episode 4, they had another brunch, and they had Caitlin at the brunch, and Caitlin mentioned that her great-great-great-grandfather was Jefferson Davis, and nobody said anything. What are your thoughts?
They didn't know who Jefferson Davis was.
Exactly. Exactly. I want everybody to find.
I mean, if you say Jefferson Davis in regular conversation with people around here, they're not gonna know who it is. So that wasn't surprising. I'm not surprised that no one at that table knew who Jefferson Davis was. It's not surprising. That's kind of,
Par for the course.
Par for the course.
Well, I have two things to say. One, yes, I agree. I don't think that everyone there knew who Jefferson Davis was, but also too, we do have to keep in mind that it's entertainment and there's editing going on, and there are things that just aren't going to be displayed on certain, platforms and networks. So we do have to keep that in mind. However, I do agree. Everyone didn't know. No, seriously, everyone didn't know. But we do have to still keep that in mind, though, as well, because there are some platforms, there are some things that just aren't going to be, shown or seen.
So he does makeup, and so he just wanted to, kind of take.
No.
Go ahead, Kara.
I want to know the vaccine. Did they cut
No. Wait, Kara. Wait. It has nothing. No, wait. It has nothing to do with my affiliation. I am not biased.
That's the first.
I'm not biased.
No, I want to know, did they believe her?
I'm not biased.
Go ahead, Kara.
I want to know, did they believe her when she stated that? And is that the scene that they cut? And that's what I thought. They didn't believe her. That's what I thought. Because something was.
So that's why they didn't have no comment.
They cut it. I thought she was gonna come with it.
Edit.
They edited that.
They did not know. They did not know who he was. There was no reaction. Look at their faces. Keitha is the only one that made some type of face that knew who they were talking about. Everybody else was clueless in that room.
Listen, y'all got to understand, though, it's reality TV. So, I mean, it's fixed. So
I bet they cut
be entertaining.
Scripted reality. It's scripted reality.
Sarah, you're saying that the producers didn't believe her, or the people at the table didn't believe her?
The people at the table didn't believe her. And they had that conversation with her, and they cut.
Let me share this with you all. Honestly,
for the people that
all of the scene was not shown.
Let me
say, was not.
Jay, you don't have to try to take up for these folks.
I'm not taking up. I'm not taking up. No, I'm not.
I mean, what you saying though? What you saying?
I'm not getting. I don't have a check. I don't have a contract with on. So why would I take up for them?
I know that.
It's the truth.
I know
But
that.
it's the truth.
Jay, hold on a second.
Hold on, Jay. I know they edited because when Bakita left and they came back and did the scene where Caitlyn said, "Come here," I can see his shirt still in the scene, but they had already showed him leaving. But the fact that nobody made a face or said anything, I don't care if this reality TV or whatever type of TV, somebody should have said something or addressed what she had to say.
But why should they if they didn't know?
Oh, they couldn't. That's what I'm saying. They couldn't because they didn't know who he was.
Right.
So for the people that's watching, Jefferson Davis was the president of the Confederacy that left the Union because of slavery. If you read the Articles of Secession, they tell you why they left. Point blank period. And it's because of slavery, the greatest institution of them all. It's on paper.
But here's the thing.
But you're still assuming that everybody at the table would know that, though.
No, I'm not assuming that they would know that. I said they should have known.
Maybe. I mean, we know.
See,
here. We know.
Yeah. So this is the thing.
He's still talking.
Well, why would you mute me?
She's not gonna let you make it, Jay.
I know, right? I just want you to understand, and I need for all the viewers and the people out there to understand that I'm not taking up. I'm seriously not taking up. But you have to understand, I'm in a position to where I'm behind the scenes, and I know a bit more than viewers and whatnot. So I do know for a fact that there are a lot of things that are done and said that pertains to a lot of scenes. That one, for example, that just was not seen, done away with. What was done with it, I don't know. But it was not aired for the public because what we saw was PG. What happened was beyond PG. And so I just say that, and I don't think that was the fact of they knew who he was or not. It was the fact that she even said what she said, period. So, yeah. Yeah. So
it's like watching wrestling. It's the same thing. It's scripted. It's scripted TV because if it was boring, nobody would watch it.
But
it's partially scripted.
But Marie hadn't interrupted her because I really wanted to see why she was so upset.
But that's why it was self-explanatory. You said it yourself. She said who her great-great-great-grandfather was. That's why she was upset. Because they were talking about her family, her heritage. Although she may not have adopted some of those same things, as she said, but she spoke of her heritage.
Even when she said that her family has never mistreated Black people,
and then she said who her great-great-grandfather is. Come here, doctor. Come here. She didn't even say come here. She said come here. Come here.
Listen.
What she said.
Woo child. That's all I can say. Woo child.
But make sure y'all tune in on Fridays at 9 p.m. Central Time, baby, on network. I got to continue to get that plug in because as long as they're working, I'm working. Thanks.
Okay. So
that's how Mary had a little lamb.
We're gonna end on a good note while everybody's thinking of their final thoughts. I'm gonna play this clip from Representative Jeffries. What's Jeffries' last name? First name, last name. Babe, when I tell you he gave them the business, he's from Harlem. And I forgot the gentleman's name from Utah that got up there and tried to lecture to them. And when I tell you he gave them the business, check out this clip.
I missed it.
Gentleman from Utah, as he sat here lecturing us about patriotism, and I was just going to ask him, how he voted after a violent mob attacked the Capitol to hunt down members of Congress, to hang Mike Pence, to assassinate Nancy Pelosi, to stop us from undertaking our constitutional responsibilities as part of the peaceful transfer of power. More than 100 officers seriously injured, brain injuries, head trauma. One officer lost 3 fingers. Another officer, because of an assault on him, is likely to be blind. Officer Sicknick died. Blood was spilled. 2 other officers are no longer with us. And you want to sit here and lecture us about patriotism when you voted to object to an election that you know Joe Biden won and perpetrated the big lie? But the notion of you coming here lecturing us on your first day before this committee, it's not about words, it's about actions. You know what? Explain your actions on January 7th when you supported an insurrection. I gave him. It's my time.
The gentleman from New York has the floor.
And you don't really want any of this either. You also said that any mistake is not your fault in terms of what's being taught to others. That's what the former president of the United States peddled for 4 years. He took no responsibility for anything. And Mr. Chairman, there's some members on the other side of the aisle, including perhaps former NFL players, who defended that kind of irresponsible behavior.
Yeah, so that happened. Any comments?
I mean, that pretty much summed it up.
That sums it up. So I would let everybody give their final thoughts. Final thoughts. We will start with you, Miss Stephanie.
So my final thoughts. We're seeing a lot of difference in the world. We're seeing a lot of unwellness, but we're also seeing a lot of togetherness. If we could realize that even on this panel, even in our communities, even in this country, there are going to be people with differences of opinion, but people are valuable. Remember to value people, value their voice, value the right to exist on the earth, because that's just and right. And be there. There's always a higher way to go. They say, well, they go low, we go high. I still believe that. I believe that we can all go high and make a difference. And the more we come together, the closer we get to a just and equitable nation. So let's continue to come together. And I thank you for the platform. Thank you for being here tonight. And thank you all on this panel for what you had to share tonight. And thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Thank you. Dr. Allen?
Whew, y'all, I've gotten sleepy. I want to say that's why it's important to vote. That's why it's very important to vote. And let's just work together to build a better nation.
And vote for Dr. Rashonda Allen.
Vote for me. Alderman at large, City of Byram, Mississippi.
Oh,
all righty. Jay, you can unmute yourself now.
Wow, I appreciate it. I feel a part of the group now. I don't feel alienated. No, but my final thoughts are definitely I just want to say that we first of all, as a human race, I think that we need to take the time out to deal with deal with our spirit and whatever that is for you. As a human race, individually, deal with your spirit and what that spirit is for you. I just want to say, I want to spread more love. There's some fire that has gotten up under me, and I'm looking forward to this new journey, and I'm looking forward to stepping out into the community and becoming this community worker that I feel is lacking in all communities. And I just want to let everyone know that, remember, it's more than the stroke of a brush. It's a ministry.
Yes, Jay.
Carol?
First of all, I vote that Brad and his wife come back next Monday. Next
Yay!
I like the feedback. And I love the platform, Jay, but I just want to always call forth a collective action, because I alone cannot do the work that needs to be done, because there's work to be done every day. So I call upon the ones who thought that you couldn't contribute, please step up, speak up, so that we can change our community for the better. Because it's only when we work together collectively that collective action becomes powerful enough to induce the change that we want to see. So I'm calling upon all of our community activists, parents, whomever, if you hold an office, let's work together to change our community.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, we have Queen and Cos and Queen.
I would, first of all, Carol, thank you so much. We'd be delighted to come back. And I do want to have further discussions with you about the healing, the community thing, because I didn't really get to touch on some of the things that I really wanted to say to you. But I want to say, to encourage people to think outside the systematic box. Things don't have to continue to be because they have always been. We can do things differently. We have what it takes. We need to Stacey Abrams everything from this day forward. And if that means starting from the bottom to the top instead of the top to the bottom, whatever that looks like. And I want to encourage people to be in their own selfness. And once everybody realize who that selfness is, we can then start working towards community and things like that. But everybody has a place. And I want to encourage people to figure out what that self is. You got to start with yourself first, and then we can get to the rest of the work. But get outside that box. Don't let the system tell you what you need to be and how you should act and what it's supposed to be and what this regulation is and all that. I ain't telling nobody to go out there and break the law, but I ain't telling you not to. Baby.
Legalize it. No, but my last thing is, instead of pointing fingers and saying what someone else should do, if you see a void that needs to be filled, get up and fill it. That's it.
And thanks for having us.
No problem. We definitely hope that you all can come back. You contributed a lot to the conversation, and I definitely want you and Carol to continue that important conversation.
It's time for a lunch date.
Exactly. So thank you all so much for tuning in to A View from the SIP. We appreciate you all for watching. We hope that you all got something out of this. We have people saying that they really, really enjoyed the show. So definitely keep watching. Stay tuning in. A View from the SIP is a platform for the people. This is a platform so you all can have a voice. If you like to come on the show, you want to be a guest co-host, definitely let us know and we will make it happen. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in to A View from the SIP.
Telling me to dance, taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance.
To stay informed about what's happening right here in Jackson, Mississippi, keep it locked to A View from the SIP.